Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome, everybody. Today is a big day. It's one of those days that everybody that is in the world, or not everybody, but a lot of people are saying, oh my God, where the hell did the sun go? It's gone. I don't know. And everybody's scared and stuff. Not everybody, but some people. And today is, this is being taped on April 8th. It's going to run on the Brushwood Media Network next week. And so this will be all in hindsight of what happened on the great big day. And our guest today, Dr. Rita Louise. I said that right, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. She is in the great state of Texas, and the thing went right over her head virtually. And so we're going to talk about the eclipse that happened today, and we're going to talk about her work. She's a medical intuitive. She's an intuitive counselor. She's an energy healer. Oh my gosh. She's a hypnotherapist. I could read your bio. It would take the entire hour to read your bio.
Pretty much.
But you have been busy in the world of energy and what you talk about and what you help people with for a very long time, since you were probably 3 years, since you were what, 25?
Yeah, that's it. And that gives me lots of experience, like 2 years of experience now.
Well, you've been on the show before. By the way, I got to ask you, how do you like my new opening?
I like it. It's very smooth and relaxing.
Yes. And it talks about being, and it talks about being who you really are and your own greatness and why are you here and finding out the things. And I was reading your bio, Dr. Rita, and you have spent the primary years, most of your life, looking for who you really are and delving deeply into lots and lots of books, lots of modalities, lots of energy work, and finding out who you really were, because you went in search of your intuitive abilities. And you know what? Surprise! You found out you had it the whole time.
Pretty much. But, Kevin, and I'm just going to be real with you, it was even more than that. I came from a very dysfunctional family, and I've spent most of my adult life trying to figure it out and trying to get past myself. And so many people sit there and look at me and go, oh, well, she's really comfortable in her skin and she does all this stuff and has books and whatever. But the reality is that I wasn't really happy. I mean, I was, but I wasn't. I had a lot of anxiety, and I've spent my whole adult life dealing with that.
And getting through it.
Well, getting through it. But I have to tell you, and we talked about when I was on the last time, my new book, Dang, It Was Me All Along. I mean, that was really that pursuit of changing who I was. One of the things that I've learned, silly me, is, you can sit there and you can read all of these books and read these books and read these books, but until you actually incorporate the techniques into your life, nothing really changes.
Oh, you mean you have to do that too?
I know.
It's kind of sad. You read the books and you figure, wow, now I've got it. But now they make you apply all of these things to your life to live the best life that you can.
Yeah. So it was interesting, that was part of the dang, it was me all along part, because it was like, oh yeah, I guess I'm responsible for changing that. But if you don't even know you can change it, then why would you sit there and try?
But don't you find that at some point in your life, you think that you can, or, at least you want to give it a try. I think that happens to a lot of people.
But I think it's usually when people kind of hit rock bottom and they're like, I can't do this anymore. Like something has to change, something has to shift. That we become a much more motivated in doing it. My hope is that if people aren't happy, that they would take the onus and do the work versus waiting until, they're laying in the street, they've just been run over by a car, somebody comes and steps on them like they're a cigarette butt. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I need to do something about that.
Yeah, we are not necessarily the brightest bulb in the shop, because a lot of times we have to wait until we go down to that place where we can't go anymore, and we're tired of being in this place. I interviewed. Did you know who Neil Donald Walsh is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I interviewed him last week, and he was telling me the story of the year before he started writing Conversations with God, and he was telling me that he lost he and his wife got a divorce, and then he was on his way to work, and he got into a car accident and broke his neck, and so he became homeless for a year. And it was one of those things where he sat down at the end of the year and he wrote, what does it take? I don't know if you've ever done this. I have. What does it take to make this life work? Tell me what the rules are. I'll follow the rules, but I don't know what they are. You got to tell me what they are. And he heard back, are you just venting, or do you want answers to any of these questions?
I can relate to that.
Yeah. And he said, well, I really would like some answers. And thus Conversations with God was born. And I think that we'll all get to a place where it's like, what does it take to make this life work? And but you're doing well. You've got all kinds of knowledge. You've got a career. You've got a podcast. You're an author. You do all kinds of stuff, and you're a medical intuitive. So you work with people and help them. You must feel like all that in a bag of chips.
Well, we know each other, I think, pretty good. And I think for the most part, I'm a pretty optimistic person. Until something happens and I would get triggered, and then it would not be very pretty for a couple of weeks, or I would have something really great happen. Like what is it? Chernophobia, the fear of being happy. I kind of was worried that I had that, because it always seemed like something really good would happen. Like I get on Coast to Coast to do an interview. So I'm all like, yay. And then, like the next day, some crap would happen and take all of that happiness and throw it in the dumpster, but I discovered that you don't you can have the happiness and have that be a goal, and have that be something that you want to have in your life, and not just wait for random things to happen for you to feel happy.
I know. Well, I got to tell you, there's a reason why this happened. We booked this interview some time ago, before I knew anything about the eclipse. And it turns out you live in Texas, and it went right overhead.
Yes, it did.
Tell us the story of the eclipse. What was it like for you?
So, I wanted to do the eclipse, but then I kind of forgot about it. And I went outside to let the dog out, and it was kind of dark. And I'm like, oh, wait, eclipse. And I ran in, and it was like, the moon was covering the sun like more than 3/4. And I'm like, ooh, I hope I didn't miss it. And so I just put my little, wait, where are my glasses?
Yeah, wear your glasses.
Here, wait. So I put so my cool little glasses on, and I'm sitting in the chair. Because it was really cloudy, but you could see the eclipse, and I'm like, good, I didn't miss it. And it was interesting because I just, based on these new techniques that I've been working with, breathing and tapping and being more mindful, I just used that time, with my head up, just being in the present moment and just being with the eclipse. And it was interesting because when it went full, I started crying, which was good. I mean, it was pretty cathartic. And I was out there and I was kind of praying, not that I'm a praying traditional, but just having a conversation with God. How's that? About
Perfect.
where I would like for this new cycle to be. So thus the crying. Because I'm ready for that old cycle to end. And
Well, I've been told by people who are astrologers and stuff that this was a big deal. It was either the ending or the beginning of something new, and that energy was involved. And did you feel any? Well, obviously you were crying, so you felt something. So there must have been some energy involved with all of that.
yeah, I mean that would be my thought. I mean, I found it very peaceful, and when it hit that moment, because I'm like was on the very edge of the full immersion zone, like very edge of it. And so it was only in that like peak eclipse point for like 10 seconds, maybe. I mean, it was very brief. But in that moment, I just looked up and went, wow. I mean, it was a wow moment just to see it gone. It was gone.
And there was this big black spot where it was.
That's right. And what was interesting is, I sat out there for a while more, but it was really cloudy. So the clouds were starting to really obstruct the sun. I said, okay, I guess that's my sign to like go back inside because I can't really see it anymore. And I come in and there's an email from a friend of mine that lives in Germany wanting to know if I had been raptured or not, or if, there was an earthquake or, I don't know, this whole list of stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I go, I got raptured. I go, but for some stupid reason, I came back.
Isn't it? I just think it's really is interesting that when something like that happens, we attach all kinds of extra meaning to it, like it's the end of the world, or it's the rapture, or it's going to be a horrible thing, or there's going to be earthquakes and stuff. And this goes back to when the Indians were here, and they didn't know that it was coming. It just would magically appear. Now that would be probably more
That would be
scary.
freaky. Yeah, that would be freaky. But I was in Texas for the 2017 eclipse, and it wasn't like a full eclipse, but it got pretty close. And I don't recall all of this rapture or, like I didn't recall all of the fear mongering tied to it
Yeah.
that there was this time. And I'm like, okay, y'all don't, there have been eclipses, like a lot of them. This isn't the first one on the planet. We know what it's going to do.
It's happened before.
Yeah.
And
And
it
we
happens a couple of times a year, I'm told.
Say that again.
It happens a couple of times a year in various
That's
places.
what a friend of mine just said. Somewhere in the world it happens. And it's like, huh. So, but fear mongering seems to be kind of the thing of the day in America. Like, what can we do to scare the crap out of you?
Well, it's the number of clicks, or the number of likes, or the number of subscribers that people get, and the more sensational it is, the bigger the opportunity to get millions and millions and become a superstar and become an eclipse and all that kind of stuff. But people make stuff up. It's so sad, but they do.
Mm-hmm. But see, I just can't even, from my personal integrity point of view, I just can't even do that. And I can't go there because it's like, but then I'd be a liar and a hypocrite. And I would rather be poor than a liar and a hypocrite.
That's it. I agree with you 100%. You can't be, you to intentionally commit falsehoods just to get a rise out of somebody else is really not something that I'm interested in. I try and to talk to people like you. I know how much integrity you have, and that you would not do things in order just to get sensationalized. That what you say is what you actually believe.
Thank you. Ooh, we're getting a little bit of thunder.
Uh-oh.
It's gonna rain. And then
Well,
there'll be an earthquake. And then the sky's gonna fall in on me because there was the eclipse today.
exactly. Now, you watch. Somebody is going to say that because of the eclipse, you have thunder and lightning, which, by the way, I've been in Texas. You have that stuff all the time.
Oh yeah. But I'm just gonna look for Henny Petty and Goosey Lucy and Chicken Little.
Exactly. So tell me, since the last time we talked, what you been up to?
Do you really want me to go there? So, you know, I mean, last time I was on, we talked about my new book here. I'm just going to do it anyway.
Let's do it
Dang.
now. Yeah.
Huh?
Let's do it now. Yes, ma'am.
So we talked about this, right?
We did briefly, but we can talk about it more in depth.
Okay. But, you know, so I just have been doing like a ton of interviews and, you know, and I told you off camera and I'll bring it up, you know, but you know, spirit moves me in very strange ways. So finish the book, get copies, and then I turn around and I buy a project house. And so I've been mudding and taping and doing demo and carrying crap all over the place. But it's fun.
Yeah, well, if it's fun, do it, for heaven's sakes.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. You know, people ask me, and I think this would be pertinent. People ask me, well, what are you going to be doing in 5 years? And I just look at them and go, I don't know, because spirit hasn't said, well, this is the next project, you know? And so I finished the book and I'm like, okay, so what's next? And they're like, well, go look at houses. And I'm like, okay. And one phone call, this house was there. It was within, I could make the budget work. And I didn't get any red flags and I didn't get any fear or, you know, it was just kind of like float. You know, when you write that check to close that big, or you go to the bank and get that cashier check because it was a cash deal and you're doing that, you know, if you're going to have second thoughts about it, that's when it's really going to come up. Yeah. And nothing, you know, so I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Well, and I think it's really cool that you are honest with yourself in that respect, and you've got a good enough relationship with your guides and with for the divine or God or whatever, whoever you choose to, what label you choose to put on it, and you're feeling comfortable enough to be able to listen to those voices and then act upon them if they're appropriate and if that makes you feel good. And that's kind of an indicator for me as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it really is about the feel good part, because if you think about like, well, maybe I should do this, and your brain starts going crazy with kind of negative thinking, or it doesn't feel good to you, then maybe that's an indicator to stop and take a step back and reevaluate what's going on. And is this appropriate for me?
Well,
you know,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
You know, so I mean, this happened quite a while ago, but it really was kind of an aha moment for me. And so, I mean, I keep sitting here and I tell these stories and they all date me, you know, but 1,000,000 years ago, there was the Whole Life Expo, and it was a big organization that put on metaphysical, new agey conferences around the country. And they were big. And they had, and when I lived in Seattle, I used to go to the Whole Life Expo there because I lived in Seattle. And I had gone to like one in Atlanta a few times. And then they decided to put one in Texas. And originally they had it in Austin, which was, if you're not familiar with Texas, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas are all about 3 hours away from Austin, you know, but in all different directions in the state. And I thought it was a great location. Didn't get out of my booth. Like at 7:00 at night, 7:30, I'm like, I'm done, because I didn't get out of my chair, because all I did was work, which was good for me because those booths were expensive. But this time they decided to do the event in Dallas, which didn't make sense to me because it wasn't as centrally located as Austin. But my brain is going, so this is my brain is saying, yeah, but you always do good. It's in Dallas. You live in Dallas. You don't have to pay for a hotel room, blah, 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 blah. But every time I kind of checked into it, I just kept getting a no. Like it's not going to be what you think it's going to be, And so that I've battled with that for a while, and finally said, you need to just listen to yourself and not get a booth, even though it's right there and whatever. And then the airplanes crashed into the Twin Towers, and air travel was shut down, and the majority of the speakers were not able to come into town. And Whole Life Expo opened their doors. They didn't charge any admission. They were just hoping people would show up because the event was a bust. And that basically toppled Whole Life Expo.
And because of your intuition and your understanding, you were able to avoid doing that. By the way, we're talking what the hell's your name anyway? Dr. Rita Louise, and go to our website, which is soulhealer.com. I want to talk more about your book when we come back, and also how you have developed your intuition to be able to have an ongoing conversation that can sometimes get you out of trouble, and you have a clear understanding what the difference is between your head talking to you and your heart talking to you. And that is really good information to have right there. So we're going to do that when we come back from this real quick break. It's 30 seconds. Don't mind. We'll be right back.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald on the Brushwood Media Network. And that's my favorite dog. And Dr. Rita Louise is with us, and she's an author. She's a medical intuitive. She's an intuitive counselor, and she's a hypnotherapist, and she knows Reiki, and she does all kinds of stuff. And she really is a wonderful lady. But by the way, before I get too far and before I forget, one of the things in your bio, and we're going to talk about dating ourselves, but I used to one of my favorite shows when I was growing up was called The Amazing Kreskin. So much so that he actually had a board game that had a pendulum with it, and I bought the board game somebody bought it for me. I was just a kid at the time. And he was a real unique individual, but that was ESP, which is a term that they don't use anymore really, because it has evolved way past that. But I understand in your bio that was one of your shows when you were a wee little one growing up.
It is what caused me to become interested in intuition in the first place, because he had ESP. But I have to tell you, I mean, because, I always thought he was amazing, and he came to Dallas. I was living in Dallas. I mean, not a number of years ago. And so if you watch the show, you'll appreciate this. So of course I tried to get front row seats, but I ended up in the second row, which was like, okay, second row's okay. And he was pulling people from the audience, and I have to sit up. This was me. Because I wanted to get on stage. It was like a freaking bucket list item. So he doesn't call me. And so he asked somebody to pick, that was on stage, to pick somebody from the audience. But I was a freaking maniac there, going crazy. So he picked me. So now I'm up on stage with Chris.
Oh, wow.
He shook my hand. Then I ended up having a whole long conversation with him because I brought my 1973 autograph picture of Kreskin with me.
And that I love those bucket list things that it just magically appears like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? What kind of, so was that, at the time, extrasensory perception was what it was, ESP was called. And at the time there was a lot of, is it real or isn't it real? What is your opinion? Was he he was a very good showman, but
Mm-hmm.
was he more of a showman, or did he actually have a gift?
So I went to the show with a friend of mine who was a magician, kind of like a walk around, pull a quarter out of your ear kind of magician. And at the end of the show, I asked him, like, so are you feeling like he's doing magic tricks or whatever? Because he didn't just do the intuitive stuff. And he goes, that man is legit. He was kind of blown away by the whole thing.
Oh, cool. Cool. That makes me feel warm and fuzzy because I've always believed in it, and I've always thought that he was very, very talented. And just like when I interview John Edward or John Holland or all of these really intuitive folks, and a lady by the name of Dr. Rita Louise, I don't know if you know her, but she's very, very talented. She's very, very talented at what she does. And it's interesting because I feel like I've got some intuitive gifts, but that's not really where my strengths lie. Whereas this is something that you've worked at now. You've worked at this for a long time, and you've developed, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've developed a great relationship with the divine and your guides on the other side. Would that be fair?
I mean, that part is definitely fair. So there was the amazing Kreskin, and then I started studying like ESP, and I went to Catholic school, and the psychic stuff. There was a little section in the library, and it was right next to the witchcraft stuff, which was taboo. And I always wanted to have it, but just didn't. And I knew I had some, but I didn't think I was very good. And then I found the Berkeley Psychic Institute and studied with them. And after paying them a lot of money and being in their program for 3 weeks, I came to the realization that I had been very intuitive my whole life, but no one ever said, well, if you have this experience, that is an intuitive experience. I just thought weird coincidences of, well, I was just thinking about this and that person walks in the room. It's
That's
like, no,
not a coincidence. Yeah. So when you found out, did you ask for a refund? Look, I've been here 3 weeks. I already know that I know I'm intuitive, so you can't help me. So give me my money back.
Well, one of the things that they really helped with was coming up with format and being able to make you feel comfortable with accessing that information on demand. And so one of the things that they would say was that they would train people so that they could sit in the middle of Grand Central Station during rush hour and do a reading for someone. Because when you're not trained, it is really random. You have this experience, and unless you're really kind of working it, it's not that you can't control it, but you don't have the foundation to access it all the time, because you don't even know that you can access it all the time. So by the time you get done with their program, I mean, literally, they would have these psychic fairs once a month. It was a 2-day event, and they'd have these like booth areas set up with all of these chairs facing each other. And so there'd be like the relationship room or booth, or the finance booth, or this booth, past life, whatever. It was broken up by topic. And so you could literally be sitting in that booth in your little folding chair, and there would be two other readers, one on either side of you, doing a session with their client where your knees literally touched the client because they packed you in that tight. And you could do your session with your client unless the people next to you talked about something really juicy. And then that would kind of disturb everything. And we'd all look over and be like, oh, sorry, cancel. And you'd go back to your session. But it made it so that you could just tune in and tap into that person's stuff. But I have to put a little caveat here. It is so much easier to read somebody else's energy than to sit there and read yourself, because it's a whole different set of tools to work with.
I've been told by tons of people that they can read other people, but reading themselves is hard because it's you. And there are all kinds of preconceived notions and experiences and all the things that you've been through in your life. It makes it difficult for you to really step aside and to be real
honest.
Yeah. Hey, there's a good word. I like that word. By the way, we're talking with Dr. Rita Louise, and we still haven't got back to the book. We're going to do that right after this break. And what's the name of the book again? I forgot.
Dang, it was me all along.
I love the title. I love the title. Dr. Rita Louise, go to soulhealer.com, find out more about her, and you can even buy the book, I'm willing to bet. And we'll be right back after this station break. Stay right there, everybody.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. You know, Dr. Rita, I love that commercial because, you know, I get the impression that there are people that are in our country who don't know that there are 4.2 million homeless kids that's under the age of 18 that are having to deal with a lot of stuff. So if we could, anything that we can do to get rid of that and to help people in a broad sense, I'm all for. And
me too.
And you are a delightful human being, and I just love you to death. What made you write the book? Was it something that your guide said, you'll now write the book, or did it just kind of show up for you?
So the last book that I wrote, The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist, I have to kind of backtrack this whole story. I wrote that book because I had just ended a relationship with a guy, and that was when the term narcissist was really kind of coming to the forefront. And my ex-husband's new wife, this is those synchronicities that you really have to pay attention to. I was taking this guy's stuff, got a friend to load it in his truck, and we were taking it to him because he was going to pick it up, which meant he was never going to get his crap. Took it to him. We're in the car, and she's messaging me, can we talk? So I talked to her, and she goes, he's a narcissist, meaning my ex. And that just kind of set me off. And I stopped and just kind of did a little life review because the guy that I was getting rid of was a narcissist. He had a drinking problem, which can lead on narcissistic behaviors. And I kind of went through my relationships, not just romantic, but personal too. And there was like a whole gaggle of freaking narcissists that I let hang around. Thus, I wrote that book so I could understand like why was I doing this, and where was I going wrong, and what was the dynamic, because I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to entertain those people in my life anymore. Well, apparently I failed miserably, because the book, it's true. The book ends, the dysfunctional dance of the empath and narcissist book ends with a message of hope. And I meet this guy, and, he seemed pretty good and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm looking for happily ever after. So the dang book opens with, he just left, and I apparently didn't figure out the secrets of life and how to not get into that situation anymore. And the reality, what I discovered, plus COVID was just ending. My business wasn't doing good. I mean, there were other things going on, and I was scared and I was depressed. And bottom line, when I looked in the mirror, the only person there was me. And the question that I went into it was, what do I need to do to be happy? What do I need to do to be content? And is that something that you can pursue as a goal? Or is my cranky little kvetching self all that there is? I didn't know. And so that was the initial question that, of course, led me down into a rabbit hole, which turned into the book.
And the name of the book again is?
Dang, it was me all along.
I love the picture. It's like looks like she's got a train that's about ready to knock her over, and because her eyes are big and wide.
People were like, well, you should put your picture on the cover. And I'm like, no. And I just love this woman's facial expressions. I had a whole bunch with her that, she was like, it just all kinds of poses, but great emotions on her face.
So what you discovered in writing that book is that in many cases, well, in almost every case, the things that happen to us, we are responsible for them and for changing them, and there is really nobody else but us as an individual.
And there's the things that happen to us, but I had been battling the things that had happened to me for my whole life, and the conclusion I came to was I need to just put a period there and go, okay, that was then. Where am I going from now? And even though there was some, I'm going to say, bad or challenging behaviors. I mean, I had, we get trapped in cycles of negative thinking, but sitting there reading about codependency didn't make me not be codependent, or, reading about trauma just kind of re-traumatizes you. I had to stop even listening to anything, because it just reminds you, oh, you're screwed up. Oh, you're screwed up. Here, you're screwed up in this way, and this is how you can fix it. And it's like, you know what? I'm tired of being screwed up. So what can I do to change what's going on inside of me so that I can be happier? And what I found was that as you start working this process, it gives you the opportunity to heal that crap that you spend your whole life trying to fix, that you never really got anywhere with, because you're addressing it from a very different perspective.
And that's sometimes what you need to do, is to change your perspective in order to get a different result, because of that old saying. It's like, what is it? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You gotta change up what you're doing. Although sometimes I gotta tell you, Dr. Rita, I married my mother, but I swear to you.
Did you like your mom? That's
well, first of all, let me say my mother's passed. I love my mother, but some of the things that she was about and did, I wasn't real happy with and stuff. But the girl I married was a very nice looking girl. She was very pleasant and she had a nice personality. And then as the years went by, things started to change, and they changed not in a good way. And so at the end of it, it was like, damn, I married my mother. How is that possible? I had no idea. That it wasn't like I went into it saying, she reminds me of my mom and I love my mom, so I'm going to date her and marry her. It was like, no, I thought she was something else. But sometimes it just works out that way until you can figure out how to make it change and make it different. In my case, I decided instead of a wife, I'd get a dog.
And see, for me, I just decided, to change my relationship with myself. At the very beginning, you talked about dating yourself, and that's one of the things I talk about in this book is, many times we get into these uncomfortable situations, whether it is someone we're romantically involved with or someone that is a friend, because we really don't have a relationship with ourselves as, I'm just going to say as human beings. Society teaches us to put up with a lot of crap. Okay, so that there are the narcissists who don't put up with anything that's not in their benefit. And then there are the people pleasers, the codependents and the fawners of the world who put up with all kinds of crap from other people because they're having unconditional love, which, they're not part of that unconditional love process. And so through this work, it really makes you have to look at your own worth and put me into the equation. It's like, okay, well, you want to do that, but what about me? How do I feel about it? Am I digging it? Is it making me feel good? Or is it making me feel bad? And if it's making me feel bad, then I have to love and honor myself enough to say, you're interfering with my Zen, and you're interfering with my ability to feel good. And now I need to stop and go, is this like an ongoing chronic issue? Or is this just like we're having a little blip in the road?
And most of the time it ends up being kind of a chronic issue. I think if you're feeling that way about a relationship or somebody, or there's a narcissist involved, then they will do anything and everything to control you and to put you into that negative space. And as long as you're willing to allow that to happen, it's going to continue to happen until you stop it and make it no longer feasible for them to do that. And sometimes that can be kind of messy.
Well, so Lisa Romano, who has a video channel, and she talks a lot about codependency and I don't know, her parents were alcoholics. So that was kind of her introduction and, the toxic relationships she's been in. And she said, the difference between a healthy individual going into a relationship and an unhealthy individual going into a relationship is if they meet up with a toxic person, the healthy individual will leave right away and the unhealthy person will stay until they can't take it anymore.
I was thinking about this just the other day. I'd love your opinion. And that is, there are 8 billion people on the planet. When you think about it, in the course of our life, of the normal human person, we don't get to see actually very many of those at all. We may closely have a relationship. I don't know about you, but in my life, I have had close relationships. What I mean by close is somebody that I will hang out with and want to hang out with again, and they become part of my world, part of my family. Probably less than 100 humans have qualified for that kind of, I mean, there are people that come and go and people you say hello to, but people that you actually have a conversation with, that you go out to dinner with, and that kind of, there's not very many of those. And if you pick the wrong ones or settle for the wrong ones, your sample size isn't very good as far as the human race goes. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I'm not even sure how to respond to that, but I'll agree. I have just a really bad picker, apparently, but it's way better. It's way better because my whole attitude now is if you're going to mess with my energy, so I'm here and I'm happy, and I'm content, even though I get out a letter from the IRS, I'm still like, okay. But if you're going to interact with me and my energy goes, then I need to become curious about what's going on and make a decision of whether I want to participate in this or not. So I'm a big advocate of purgatory, so you do something, and if I don't like it, you go in purgatory, and I want to say that you have, there's a 3 strikes you're out rule, because now you're in purgatory and I'm going to see, well, do you do it again? Do you mess up my energy and I didn't even do anything, kind of thing. And, and that, the practice that I talk about in this book about being mindful, becoming more aware of what's going on inside is the freaking easy part. You just have to do it, but it's easy. The hard part is when you sit there and go, okay, that's 3 strikes and now you're out, and sitting there going, okay, now you're out. You got to go, or I got to go. I'm out of here, whatever that may be. And making those choices to love and honor yourself enough to let them go, let a situation go, leave a marriage, quit a job. I know so many people that stay in jobs that they hate and they're toxic and they don't want to be there. And I'll say, well, but you have a choice. You could always quit. No, I can't. No, I can't. It's like, well, then you're just going to stay in that unhappy, toxic environment for forever, and you're going to be miserable. So don't talk to me about it.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I call that? The golden handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, the job is comfortable, it makes too much money, you are lazy and don't want to go and get another job, or your wife would kill you if you lost this job because she wants to go shopping every Thursday and you can afford to do that for her now. And then so the golden handcuffs, you're stuck, and then you feel stuck, and then you feel angry and that affects your whole life, and it affects your kids, it affects your marriage and everything, because you're not a happy person.
See, happy, not happy.
Happiness is the key. When we come back, Neil Donald Walsh told me something last week, and I want to share it with you and see what you think about this. We're talking with Dr. Rita Louise. Go to soulhealer.com. We're going to be right back after this. I promise. 30 seconds. That's it. That's all you get.
I'm counting.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and we've got Dr. Rita Louise with us. I just love having you on. You are so cool, and I love that commercial because you see, you're so young. You're so much younger than me. You have to protect us old people from people that want to cause fraud and take our money and all that kind of stuff. So that's also why.
That's the secret. Don't click the link.
that is so true. As a matter of fact, I had that happen to me today. Now I do Positive Talk Radio, right? I do Positive Talk. We do everything. We do not swear. We do not talk politics. And I get an email saying that Facebook is going to sanction us and going to eliminate us. But click on this link, and if you go there, we may be able to save you. Now, I know that didn't come from Facebook, but somebody who's claiming to be Facebook will then take me down the rabbit hole of, well, we can fix this, but it's going to cost several $100s, and we want you to use Bitcoin to. It's just anyway. But I wanted to ask you, because you are an energetic being in a physical body, and when we're talking about happiness, I did something the other day, because when I was going to interview Neil, he has one of my friends is like, he is on her bucket list of, this is who, if I have to give up something, I need to, I would love to talk to him before I pass away. So I had her interview him with me. And so I was giving her happiness. But the fact of the matter is, I got it back more than she got in that. Does that make sense?
Kind of, yeah.
So if you want true happiness.
Were you happy? You were happy because you were able to give her that?
Yes.
It was so important. Okay, now that makes more sense.
It was, if you want true happiness, give happiness to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that will come back to you in a myriad of ways. And she was very thankful. She cried during it was a little embarrassing. She was crying talking to him and stuff, but it was cool, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. But tell me about your work with energy, and how you know, in the work that you've done in your life, how you know when the energy between you and somebody else just is not quite right, and you might need to make a change, or you step away from them because of that energy differential. Explain that to me.
If you're feeling uncomfortable, if you feel like your energy's been sucked dry. All right, so I'm going to tell the story. So I had this friend who liked to complain a lot. You call up and she'd be like, rah, 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 wouldn't quit her job, toxic job. And every time I would talk to her, it was just kind of a bummer. I mean, not every time, but the more I became aware of, and me shifting, where I just want to be around positive energy, positive people, it was like I had less and less and less to say. And it was kind of like, well, this isn't, it's just not working for me. You call me up and you just bitch at me, not about me, but I'm like, it's not working for me. And then she exited. So I was like, okay. I like it when it works out that way better.
I had the same issue with my boyhood friend that we kind of grew up together through elementary school and the start of junior high. And years and years and years later, on a Friday or Saturday night, after too much Bacardi and Coke, he would give me a call and say, how are you? What's going on? And we talk. And then he would inevitably, he would complain about his job. I hate my job, hate my boss, hate my life, except for my wife. She's good. But everything else in my life I have. And I said, quit. So I can't quit. I can't quit. I gotta stay working here and being miserable. And I said, quit your job, dang it. Go get another one. It's a customer service job. You can go get another one. He goes, no, I can't. I'm too scared. And so finally I said, look, if you're going to continue to talk like that, you have nothing to talk about. So if you want to call me, that's great. But the next time you call me, I want you to take control of your life and tell me what you're going to do to not hate your life anymore.
Wow.
Never, oddly enough. He never said it. He never.
And I have to just pray that this woman never listens to this show. So toward the end, she called, I'm talking to her on the phone, and she goes, so there's a house in Marshall that's for sale, and I think it's near you. And she goes, where is it? And I'm like, it's right across the street. She goes, well, do you think the owner would be negotiable on the price? And I was like, the horror, the total horror. And I finally just had to say to her, it's like, I love you, but you cannot move and live across the street from me. Period. Like, no. That, yeah. Yeah, so we stopped talking not much after that.
Well, and though, the thing is, people in your life come and go. If they resonate with you, if they make you feel good, if they help you raise your energy, if they have positive things to say, then they're worth having around. And sometimes they go too. It depends on myriads of circumstances, but let people go and do what they're going to do. And you do everything you can to raise your vibration, to raise your power, and to love yourself and to care for yourself. That's a good recipe, isn't it?
It's a great recipe. And sometimes as we raise our vibration and we become more aware of what we're doing and what's going on, people that we were very comfortable with in the past start to become uncomfortable because we're not there anymore and we don't want to participate in that dynamic. And it's okay. It's okay to step away.
And sometimes you really kind of need to. So Dr. Rita Louise has been our guest today. Soulhealer.com is where you go. Now, you've also got your podcast, which we haven't touched on much, and you've got a bunch of other stuff going on. So we've got 2 minutes. I want you to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
Okay. So I do a live stream on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central. The easiest way to access it is on YouTube. And my YouTube channel is, and this is 3 words, Just Energy Radio. So not just energy radio, it's just energy radio because it's all just energy. And you can join the chat, and I do like a 15-minute talk on some topic. And then I open the chat up and you can get a free on-air psychic reading for free with me and hang out because we just talk about stuff and it's good and fun and free. And free is free.
Free is very, very good. And by the way, you're very good at doing all the psychic stuff that you do. And also you can help people with energy healing and to find out what's going on in their body and perhaps the stress that they're going through and how to minimize that and get rid of that. You're very talented in a lot of things that you do.
Thank
and
you.
it's awfully fun to have you here. Will you come back and see me again?
I will. I love you to death.
Well, I hope not to death.
I'm not going to take your dog's place. Don't worry.
It's a fine dog. Actually, I had to give him back because he wouldn't become potty trained. So now I'm dogless and wifeless. And you know something? That makes me extraordinarily happy. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want to. It really is quite fun. People should give it a try. It really, for me, it works out really well. So I love talking to you. You're great fun to have here. And I look forward to the next time that we get to meet.
Okay. Sounds great.
And your website again is?
Soulhealer.com.
And where can they go on Thursday night to get a free reading?
Just Energy Radio on YouTube and click the live button because it's a live stream. You got to click the live button.
And if you don't, you'll be sorely disappointed.
That's right. You won't get to hang out with me.
That's right. And you're worth the price of admission to hang out with you. Free. Thank you, Dr. Rita. And
thanks, Kevin. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.